What's going on, everybody? Today I want to talk about storage. That's hard drives, cloud storage, and everything in between. It's something that I don't think gets talked about enough in the creator world, and in this day and age there's nothing more important than data and information. So it's appropriate to put measures in place to make sure that you don't ever lose any of your files. So if you haven't been here before, I am a full-time photographer and filmmaker, and I've been doing this full-time for the last 7.5 years. And in that time I've been to over 50 countries, and I've probably done a few dozen road trips around the US. Pretty much every single day in the last 7.5 years, I have been documenting, taking photos, taking videos, having my camera with me, my drone, my GoPros, my Insta360s. Almost everything since I started doing this has been documented, so it's so important to make sure that all of your data is safe and you have systems in place. When I started out, I had no one to teach me about hard drives, organization, data storage, or really how to just ensure that all of my files are safe. Over the years, I've developed my own system on organizing all of this and handling all of this. It works great for me. I think it's amazing, so I'm going to share it with you today in hopes that it may help you. And before we deep dive in, I just want to add that this is what I do. There's probably going to be some people that disagree with me. There's probably going to be a lot of people that agree with me, but I just want you to know that this is what works for me. It can work for you too, but this is not the only way to handle your data storage as a creator. Some may call it overkill, but I always ensure that all of my files are triple backed up. So if I ever have any files or drives that get corrupted, I know that my files are safe and accessible elsewhere. So first off, any current real-time projects, whether it's commercial client work or if it's personal YouTube videos or just personal photos or videos, all recent real-time folders live on SSDs. SSD stands for solid state drive, which is a drive that is much faster than a regular hard drive, and the data is stored in integrated flash circuits. Because it is a solid state drive, there's much less chance that the drive will get corrupted or fail on you. I mostly use the SanDisk Extreme SSDs, but I also have a few Samsung T7s. Based on the scope of the project or what I intend to put on these hard drives, my SSDs will typically range from 1 to 4 terabytes. And it's also worth noting that because these drives are so much faster and less likely to corrupt, they're a lot more expensive. For those of you that haven't seen SSDs or don't use them, this is what they look like. These are some of my SanDisk drives, and this is my Samsung T7 drive. You'd think that this would be all my hard drives, but this is not. This is just a fraction of my hard drives that I have here with me right now. And some of these are individually labeled if it's for a single client or a single project. So you can see that I have that with sticky notes on each of these. So my first line of defense after my solid state drives are my regular hard drives. A regular hard disk drive stores data magnetically through spinning disks. Sometimes when you're using them, you can even hear the disk spinning, especially if you're putting a lot of heavy-duty work onto it, say in Premiere or After Effects. These hard drives I refer to as cold storage. I don't know if that's a proper term. It just makes sense in my head, so that's what I refer to them as. It works for my organization, so I use the term cold storage. What I mean by that is my cold storage drives are strictly for storing things, and I'm not actively editing on them in any of my Adobe applications. I used to work on these hard drives. There's nothing wrong with it. They're just much slower, and as I've adapted and evolved my system, I just much prefer to edit on solid state drives and then use my hard disk drives for cold storage. So with this being said, all of my files are on an active SSD drive, and then they are double backed up on a cold storage drive, which is awesome because if one of these fails, I have the other one. Because a hard disk drive stores data magnetically through the spinning disk, it is a little bit more likely to corrupt. Knock on wood, I have never had one corrupt, but because of this, you should know that these are much, much cheaper. Most of the time when I'm getting a hard disk drive, I'm getting a 4 or 5 terabyte drive, but I also have a few 2 terabyte drives from the past, typically going with a WD drive or a LaCie drive. So let's say I'm using this SSD drive and I also have it double backed up on a cold storage drive. As soon as I finish the project that is on here, what I will do is I will take that project and those folders and I will put it on a second cold storage drive. So now I still have all of my things double backed up, but then as soon as it is on 2 cold storage drives and the project is finished and I most likely don't need to reopen it, I will take it off of this SSD, which frees space on here and ensures that my files are still double backed up. Like I mentioned, some of my SSDs are labeled for individual clients or individual projects that are bigger, so those will stay as is, but if it's something like a YouTube video that I'm editing, as soon as I am finished editing it, it goes off of this and just onto these guys. All right, real quick, I want to tell you guys about my friends at PPA, the Professional Photographers of America. It's a nonprofit I've been working with for the last few years, and they also ensure that my creative business is safe. What I mean by that is membership with PPA gives you up to $15,000 in equipment insurance. It gives you data recovery services, which is super important and pertinent to this exact video. You can get downloadable business templates and contracts. And there's tons of online educational services. PPA is one of the best decisions you could make for your creative business, especially if you need camera insurance or if you just want to get the tools to take your business to the next level. So if you haven't already and you want to sign up for PPA membership, you can check out my link below and you'll get $25 off. So after all this, I go a step further, which even more people will probably call overkill, but I just really like to ensure all my files are safe. All of the travels I've done have cost tens of thousands of dollars. All of the trips I've done with some of my best friends and family and my girlfriend Bree all live on this. So I don't care what measures I have to take. I want all my stuff safe. So that next step is get the Dropbox Unlimited plan. So you may not know this, but Dropbox actually offers an unlimited cloud storage plan. In my first few years, I think I was using their 500 gigabyte, 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, maybe. I'm not really sure. I've always used Dropbox over WeTransfer and Google Drive just because it seamlessly connects with my Mac and I can do everything I need on my desktop. So this unlimited plan cost $864 a year, and I just started using it about 2 years ago, but I don't intend on really ever stopping because I think it's an incredible service. I believe this plan is actually intended for corporations or large businesses with a team of many people, because you can have admins and team members, all sorts of things and other perks on this plan, but I just use it for myself because I have so much data that I need to take care of. So it's a little bit expensive, but at the end of the day, all of my files are triple backed up. So I could have 2 cold storage drives fail or a cold storage drive and an SSD fail at the same time, which is extremely unlikely, and I know all my stuff is still safe. All I need is the internet or my laptop. So I license a lot of my footage that I've been taking over the last 7.5 years, and there have been times before I had this plan where a client would reach out to me and they would want to license something, but they would need it in, say, 3 days. And I was out of the country and I wasn't going to be home for 2 weeks. Before I put everything on Dropbox, sometimes I lost out on money because I couldn't get the files over to someone fast enough to license. But now if someone reaches out, I could have none of these with me and I could be halfway across the world. And at the click of a button, I can go on Dropbox.com, find that folder, send it over, license, get paid, and it's amazing. So aside from having all my files safe, it's a great integration for your creative business if you're on the road a lot and you don't want to carry all of these. Which I don't recommend, by the way, because these are very precious. And if you haven't used Dropbox or you don't have it connected with your computer, you definitely should, because it's seamless and it's as easy as dragging and dropping your clips and your folders onto Dropbox, which is directly on your computer like the desktop or documents. And then as soon as those files are synced over the internet, you could take them off your local storage so they won't be on your computer anymore, and then they'll strictly be on the cloud, which you can access from your computer or from your phone or just any internet connection. So some creators might argue why you should get a 16 terabyte drive or a RAID system. A RAID setup uses multiple storage drives to create a single workable storage system. I've never used these systems, but I have heard mostly great things. But at the end of the day, there's a few different ways to do things, and rather than having one big system that holds everything, I feel safer having a bigger quantity of hard drives like this, because then I know if one drive fails, I have everything else in 1, 2, or 3 other places, and the odds of all of those failing is extremely unlikely. And as far as the RAID setup goes, it's just something I've never used because I'm extremely happy with how I handle my data storage. To each their own. There's absolutely nothing wrong with the RAID setup. It's just something that I personally won't be using anytime soon. So I live in Denver, Colorado, but I grew up in Maryland, and in my first few years of creating, I used large 8 terabyte drives that lived in Maryland, and that's where I would double back things up on, which worked great, and those drives still live in Maryland, which actually makes a lot of my content safe in multiple locations, because there are other things that you need to worry about as far as if there was a fire and if all of these were here. Extremely unlikely, but something to consider. You know, you want to have all your stuff safe, and I even know people that rent storage units with temperature controlled rooms for a copy of their hard drives. I have never gone that extreme, but it is something to consider to have your drives in multiple locations. So for my individual folder organization on each drive for every project, every video, and every trip that I do, I'll just touch on that briefly in case it helps anyone or in case anyone is looking for additional organizational tips. So pretty much every project of mine has the same subfolders: edits, projects, raw images, edited images, time lapses, and footage. And then the footage folder is broken down deeper to the cameras the project was shot on, with some projects having as many as 10 subfolders in the footage folder. I hope you guys found some value in this video. When I was starting out, I really wish there was an experienced creator who did a deep dive on data management and storage like this. So hopefully this helps you if you're just starting out, or if you've been doing this for a while and are just curious how other creators do it. If this video was helpful, please let me know and leave a comment below. If you're not already, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you later.